Thank you. Thank you very much, Margit, for the introduction. And thanks to the organizers of this conference. Thank you, Morgane. Thank you, Margit, for bringing us together, for allowing me to speak here and to assess together the status quo of media conservation in Europe. This has been a fantastic conference, and I'm really humbled actually to see the works that my colleagues are doing within and without their respective institutions, despite the circumstances at times and blowback that they are experiencing. I'm excited, however, to see this critical mass forming, and I look forward to brainstorming with you how this space, how this place of education and research can support you in your endeavors of advocacy, and for this university to become a partner in our common goal of establishing media conservation as an integral practice within our field. I'm speaking today in my role as co-head of the Conservation of Contemporary Art program, Modern Materials in Media, at the Academy of the Arts in Bern, which I'm co-heading with my colleague Martina Pfenninger-Lepage. And I'm also stepping into really big footsteps, and I want to use this moment to acknowledge my predecessors, Agathe Jacek and Johannes Gfeller, who've laid an amazing groundwork and reputation of this place. I'm looking forward to tell you more about our program, our projects, our focus, and the recent curriculum changes we implemented to serve a larger vision. And this vision, on my part, is informed by my time as media conservator at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, which I was incredibly fortunate to spend under the mentorship of Jill Starrett, Michelle Barga, and Lena White. And in these 8 years, I found myself in a very privileged situation of working or of having institutional support for my and my colleagues' work, and I saw what we were able to do under these circumstances. I was part of Team Media, one of the first interdepartmental working groups to collaboratively tackle the challenges of media art conservation, which includes curators, conservators, registrars, media technicians, IT and IP managers, as well as outside experts. And with a monthly schedule, this meeting brought together an in-house expertise of people who all, in one way or another, were working or overlapping with media art. And by discussing questions or challenges as a group, it did not only support the collaborative nature of the team, but also resulted in a deep understanding for everyone's role and the information they would need to successfully do their jobs. I was part of pre-acquisition meetings in which curators presented the works they were going to propose, and our team of experts estimated possible risks and collected questions to ask the artists, galleries, and fellow collectors. As both Patricia and Andreas stressed yesterday, this helped incredibly with getting to know the works from an early stage and assess the works' deliverables, which were formulated as such in acquisition contracts. Especially with media artworks and their dependency on fast-changing technology cycles, thinking through the risks as a group instilled in us a confidence that we will be able to support the preservation and future exhibition of the work. I was part of internal study days that explored a particular artist or group of works and discussed questions around stewardship, preservation, and presentation. These study days allowed to spread the research that was carried out by different people in different departments with a larger group and highlighted not only the work, but the results of that work. This is only a selection of efforts, of results of a working culture that was deeply committed to collaboration, appreciation, and inclusiveness. These were the results of experimental seeds that were planted as initially media artworks were acquired in the early 90s and doubled down on as later complex artworks were entering the collection. Works of the kind that my colleagues have presented on yesterday. Works where the traditional order of loss or breakage and subsequent treatment does not apply, but instead where there are key moments in these works' lifespans, such as acquisition and exhibition, that need the attention of a range of museum professionals, otherwise there will be loss. Works that require continuous and revisited documentation as a means to preserve them for future generations. Works that are so intertwined with an artist's practice that a relationship with the artist and an establishment of trust become a form of preventive conservation in and of themselves. And these efforts that I mentioned, Team Media, the study days, they were spearheaded by conservation. And they started very small. Team Media in the early 90s consisted of 3 people, a conservator, back then Jill Sterrett, a registrar, and a media technician. There was a humbleness and an appreciation for the expertise of others, and conservation did not just bring their deep knowledge around material, artistic intention, and concept to the table, but also a willingness to work towards a common goal and make possible a captivating, authentic exhibition and long-term preservation of the art in all of our care. There are many different institutions with their different histories and institutional climates, with different financing models and structures, all deeply shaped by the people who work there. Many museums and art collections today have found strategies unique to the houses, inspired by ideas and tendencies of the field as a whole, that they've adapted for their individual needs. They have established similar ways of working as standards for the care of the media artworks. And we have heard how the ZKM has ingrained collaboration in between media technicians and conservators in their practice. And actually, I want to give a shout out to my colleagues from the Kunsthaus Zürich who have done the very same thing. We heard from Tate and the complex media artworks they are acquiring because they have a team to sustainably support the work's preservation. And we've heard from the Centre Pompidou who have initiated a cross-departmental working group. A lot is happening and many more are on the way. So shaped by my very own experience and the successful implementations we see at other institutions as a starting point, let me outline to you how this is informing our teaching program and the roles we see we need to prepare our graduates for. So first, a few pointers on the program itself. It's a 5-year program that is divided into a 3-year bachelor and a 2-year master program, whereas the first 2 years give students a broad overview of materials, theory, and ethics, with a strong focus on preventive conservation. In the 3rd year, students pick one of the 4 specializations as their major. One of these 4 majors is modern materials and media. And as the name implies, it spans a wide range of artistic materials and practices. There are 6 BA and 10 MA classes specifically designed for modern materials and media students. Media-focused classes include Introduction to Electronics, AV Collections Care, and Digital Files on the BA level, and Conservation of the Moving Image, which covers film and slides, and a new class addressing the conservation of code-based art on the MA level, to which I will say a bit more in a little bit. These classes cover media technologies and digitization, the ins and outs of digital files and their preservation, the tools to document, restore, and preserve video, audio, film, and slide-based artworks, and questions around long-term storage. Recognizing the immense value of trusted artist relationships, my colleague Martina conceived of another new class that focuses on artist interviews. The new classes are part of a recent curriculum revision through which we aim to bridge the gap between media on the one side and material on the other, gearing towards a common approach that is applicable to either artwork of contemporary art, an approach that considers artistic concept and artist practice. This approach reflects a larger theme of zooming out from a material focus to a more encompassing view of an artwork that enables us to join in on discussions around art and art preservation on a variety of levels. We manifested this adaptation also in the way we teach, through team teaching and expert inputs in the other one's classes. You could say we're collaborating. An example of this approach can be seen in the new class on installation art. In this class, we looked at both media and material-based installations and established important concepts such as identity and iteration using Pip Lawrenson's and Joanna Phillips' seminal articles. This theoretical framework formed the foundation to the install of a sound installation by Lisa Mark, alumna of the HKB's Sound Arts program, which featured plastic bags, fans, and lights. Students could experience decision-making during the install and assess the work's variability. The class was rounded out by a public talk between the artist and her mentor that we held next to the work, prominently in the school's corridor, and in which we addressed many of the questions that occurred during the install in regard to reception and preservation. During practical workshop time, students work on a wide range of artworks, featuring edible croissants to polyurethane foam on one side, to installation and web-based artworks on the other. We consider these workshop projects as the bedrock of our program, and we're able to address many issues both around the artwork itself as well as the care within an institution. Through team projects, we practice collaboration. Through presentations and discussions, we're training how to talk about our work, and we talk about it in a way that is relatable. We discuss why it's important to say yes and be sparingly with our no's. In the pipeline are blog posts by students that tell, in an informal tone, our story and convey through case studies what conservators of contemporary art actually do. To give you a closer insight into one of our current workshop projects, and I believe one or two of the students are here, let me introduce to you Learning to Love You More by Harold Fletcher and Miranda July. The project reflects the shift in conservation frontiers in our field, as already mentioned by my colleagues yesterday. It features a website that was first created in 2001 and acted as a platform to communicate, exhibit, and today document the participation of people who followed the instructions of the two artists' 70 assignments, for which people submitted drawings, text, photos, as well as videos and audio recordings. Today, among other errors, the QuickTime Player plugin is no longer supported by contemporary browsers, and the video and audio files can no longer be played. As a cooperative project between SF MoMA and HKB, students assessed the technical possibilities with outside experts after they conducted a comprehensive condition report and aimed to create two prototypes, one that utilizes emulation and one that utilizes migration, to be eventually evaluated with SF MoMA's team and the two artists. We regularly report back to the museum on our progress and and discuss with them questions around meaning and intention, ethics and maintenance. This in turn helps the museum to advance their own internal discourse on the care of web-based artworks, as well as to advocate for more resources for this kind of deep research, which reveals this vast information about a work, enriching their own collection's record. Conservation projects like this one are supported by a new class in the curriculum, Conservation of Code-Based Art, that introduces students to the world of software code, binary numbers, and programming itself. Together with Dr. Christine Guthrie, digital media professor at Berlin-Weißensee, who has conceived of a more comprehensive workshop of this class in Berlin as part of an all art students' first year. The class is designed as an introductory course, playfully showing that everyone can code. And while it is rocket science, it's not rocket science. At the same time, we look at the systemic barriers that women historically and contemporarily are facing within software engineering, and who is benefiting from the very widespread mindset that coding is just not for me. We also look at best practices of preserving code, at version control, code commenting, and documentation, as well as migration as a preservation strategy. We heard from Casey Rias and most recently Camille Attebeck, who shared the way they use software and coding within their own practice. And I'd like to mention that this class prepares students for a class taught by Tom Ensem, who is also here with us today, on disk imaging and emulation. Part of our team's approach is also an awareness of current political events and systemic inequalities. It is important for us as a team to reflect the values we hold by using inclusive language that avoids the German generic masculine and checking our case studies and literature lists against colonialist and sexist biases. Most recently, we discussed the role of conservation during the removal of art depicting racist imagery. And increasingly, we are finding formats of overlap with our colleagues from the art education program in-house. And just this Wednesday, we actually met for an informal forum to discuss the Documenta 15 and its exhibition concept with them. And I was really excited to see how conservators and art education students were able to meet on a level of a shared common language while still honoring their respective expertise. And as graduates from these programs bring these skills and abilities onto the market, I need your support to help them in their endeavors. Creating positions or postgraduate fellowship positions for them may be a very non-threatening way of introducing a new person to an existing staff. This will get them into the door and help you advocate for permanent, full-time positions. It's a model that has worked at SF MoMA, just as it has worked most recently at the Kunstsammlung Nordrhein-Westfalen. And I will need the community, and I'm including myself here, to fight for higher salaries that reflect the importance of our job and justify a 5-year graduate program. The vision that I was outlining in the beginning of this talk, it's what's guiding me in my teaching practice and what I hope to offer to both the field and students and graduates of the Bern Contemporary Art Conservation Program. It's a deep belief that everyone is benefiting from conservation sitting at the table, the art, the institution, and the people that work at the institution. An attempt in creating awareness and situating the Academy of the Arts in Bern as a place where this discourse can take place and was made when we celebrated our program's 20-year anniversary and organized a 2-day symposium, Contemporary Art Revisited, 20 years later, that brought together curators, conservators, media technicians, and registrars of the field of contemporary art to reflect on how far we've come and what lies ahead. With over 600 participants from over 5 continents, this symposium was held via Zoom, and the videos can now be watched at the displayed link. In closing, I would like to again thank the organizers of this conference, my immediate colleagues, Martina Pfenninger-Lepage, Dörte Döring, and Mark Egger, as well as my colleagues in this room and everyone who couldn't make it in person, who are part of doing this incredibly pioneering work. Thank you for your attention.